All right. Hello. This is Don Dynamo with There Will Be Monsters and superheavybeats.com. And I just wanted to record a quick video on how I do the mixing, my basic mixing, to make the bass come out of these samples. So I'm using samples from a sample pack I just released on my website called Super Heavy Drums on superheavybeats.com. And this is just a kick and a snare from that, just to demonstrate this this mixing technique. And I thought I'd just make a really unprofessional video. I'm recording on my iPad through my Eurorack, so you might hear a little bit of crackling noise. Sorry about that. And yeah, and I've got my cat here with me, who is lovely and fluffy, but definitely likes to try to interfere with the recording process. So, at any rate, under these conditions, let me just show you how I get the basic mixing done here. And as you can see, my voice is coming through this as well, which makes it interesting. But I do have a simple beat here. And let's turn it down a little bit. And yeah, that's just a simple kick and snare. And this is the EQ on master. And I'm using FabFilter Pro Q3. You can do this in other ones as well. So you don't have to be using Pro Q3. Any equalizer that can do mid-side processing, which a lot of them can now, can do this exact same thing. So there's a couple things that I do here. The first thing that I do is right here down about 25 to 30 hertz. We'll put a high pass filter, and I'll put it at around 18 decibels per octave filter, right there around 25 hertz. And what this does is it prevents phase issues down in the low end. Below 30 hertz, you're not going to have a lot of meaningful information. Most of that is just rumble. So you're just clearing out that rumble. It lowers the noise floor basically, and it brings out clarity in the bass. The other thing that I do here is right here at 25 hertz. I learned this from Streaky, and I'll put a link to his YouTube here. Everything that I'm teaching you here today, I learned from Dan Worrall, his YouTube channel, and I'll put a link to it. Dan Worrall, the FabFilter YouTube channel, and Streaky's YouTube channel. That's where all this information came from. And so Streaky recommends putting a bump right here at 25 hertz. 25 to 30 hertz, right? He recommends putting like a few decibels bump there. And you have to watch your scale. If you look at the scale at what you're bumping here on the right, you can see I have a 12 decibel scale here, so that's a pretty big bump. Streaky says that simulates the amplifiers they use during the mastering process, but I like the way that it sounds, a little bit of a bump, a boost at about 30 hertz. So that's what I do with that part of the low end, and it makes a difference. Maybe especially if I turn it up a little bit. Yeah, you can definitely start to hear a difference in the sound. And then, yeah, just to keep this brief, the other thing that I do, and this is where the mid-side processing comes in, around 100 hertz. Yep, right here about 100 hertz. I'm going to take the side. So here we have, you see it says mid-side down at the bottom instead of stereo. I'm going to take the side signal here, and I'm going to put a high-pass filter, and I'm going to make that a brick wall, basically, at about 100 hertz. It could be anywhere from 80 to 100 hertz. So that way, everything below Everything below this is mono. We're taking out all the side signal below 100 hertz, so that only the mono. So now we can go down here to this low pass filter, and instead of stereo, this should now be mid, because we're only affecting the mono signal down here. So now you'll see right here, everything below 100 hertz is mono now. And then everything below 25 hertz is cut off completely. So what this does is it gives your bass a lot more punch, especially if you have bass instruments mixed in with your drums, because it eliminates phasing issues. And if you'd like to know what, I had to make sure I was still recording. And if you'd like to know what phasing issues are, Dan Worrall goes over it on his channel. But basically, it's where two sine waves cancel each other out because it's the same signal with a little bit of a phase shift. And so it cancels itself out. So every sound is a bunch of overlapping sine waves. And so if you get enough of those sounds overlapping each other, they're going to start to cancel each other out in weird ways, but especially on the low end, because the frequencies are low, which means you have very big waves. So you're not going to hear those in stereo anyway. And most stereo systems only go down to 80 hertz. My monitors has a crossover at 80 hertz. So my subwoofer is handling everything below 80 hertz. And subwoofers are not directional. You hear it in the whole room. So this cleans up your bass signal a whole lot. And maybe you probably can't hear it just with this little demo, but I want to give you something to listen to anyway. But it does in general. You'll hear a big difference doing this in your mixes. And then up at the top end, really high up here, like 17,000 hertz, I'll start to cut that high end because no one can hear that high anyway. And again, you're going to have frequencies. Pardon me, I took a drink of tea. You're going to hear frequencies up there. You're going to have frequencies again that are just kind of wreaking havoc on the equipment. They're going to be throwing frequencies around that aren't contributing to the sound in a meaningful way. And it's just going to create harshness. And some people can hear that high, some people can't. I can't really hear that high anyway. Meaningful treble, you start getting down to like 13,000 is where you start to get really meaningful changes. So this is my basic equalizing for everything that I do. Everything below 100 hertz is mono, and everything below 25 hertz is cut off with a boost at 25. And then everything above about 18 to 20,000 hertz is cut off gently. And then when I do make changes in the sound here, any changes like this, I'm not going to make a ton of tiny changes. I want to make bigger changes like this. Like, you don't want to make a ton of these. Especially when you're starting out, just make bigger changes. Every time you add an EQ band, it causes a phase shift in the sound, which kind of slightly degrades the sound a little bit. So you want to have smaller, you want to do broader changes. Broader changes also helps you to sculpt the sound more easily with fewer points of data. Anyways, that's for a future video. But this is my basic mixing, and yeah, we'll go out on just a kick and a snare. All right, thank you very much. Again, this is Don with There Will Be Monsters and SuperHeavyBeats.com. Wishing you a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. And yeah, get out there and make some beats. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Bye.